This video was made in collaboration with Narutopedia. For more information, check out the link in the description. The life of Obito Uchiha. Obito Uchiha was a member of Konohagakure's Uchiha clan. He was believed to have died during the Third Shinobi World War, his only surviving legacy being the Sharingan he gave to his teammate, Kakashi Hatake. In truth, Obito was saved from death and trained by Madara Uchiha. But the events of the war left Obito disillusioned with reality, and he inherited Madara's plan to create an ideal world, resurfacing under the names of Tobi and Madara himself. Obito subtly took control of the Akatsuki, using them as a means to advance his machinations, eventually going public and starting the Fourth Shinobi World War. However, towards the war's conclusion, Obito had a change of heart and, as atonement, sacrificed his life to save the same world he sought to replace. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of Obito Uchiha. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Early life. Obito grew up not knowing who his parents were. In the anime, he was left in the care of his grandmother. Feeling alone in the world, Obito dreamed of becoming Hokage so that the people of the village would acknowledge his existence. He enrolled in the academy to help him achieve that goal, where he developed a one-sided rivalry with Kakashi Hatake, whose natural talent and popularity he was jealous of. He also became a close friend of Rin Nohara, whom he eventually fell in love with. After finally graduating some years later, Obito, Rin, and Kakashi were placed on a team under the leadership of Minato Namikaze. In the anime, as a final qualifying test, Minato gave the team a bell test to test their cooperation skills. Obito could not accomplish this on his own, but by joining forces with Rin and Kakashi, they succeeded in taking the bells, teaching Obito the value of teamwork. The team later participated in the Chunin exams, where Obito was defeated in the third round in a one-on-one match with Might Guy. Kakashi would go on to defeat Guy in a subsequent match, promoting him to Chunin and impressing Rin. Eager for Rin's attention, Obito trained relentlessly, eventually rising to the rank of Chunin himself. His excitement was short-lived as Kakashi soon afterwards became a Jonin, once again earning Rin's praise and Obito's resentment. During the Third Shinobi World War, Kakashi was placed in charge of the team for a mission to destroy the Kanabi Bridge, which would hinder Iwagakure from using Kusagakure as a relief point. Before beginning the mission, Minato and Rin gave gifts to Kakashi to celebrate his promotion to Jonin, though Obito had forgotten, straining their already poor relationship. Minato was soon called to the front lines, leaving the team to complete the mission alone under Kakashi's command. The three were discovered by Iwanin along the way, and Rin was captured. Kakashi elected to abandon Rin, believing it was more important to finish the mission before concerning themselves with her safety. Obito became enraged at the idea and insisted that they focus on her rescue. When Kakashi refused, Obito left on his own, remarking that Kakashi was worse than trash for abandoning his friends. Obito located the cave that Iwanin were using as a hideout, but was found by a camouflaged Taiseki before he could launch a rescue. Kakashi, moved by Obito's earlier words, arrived in time to save him from Taiseki's attack, but lost his left eye in the process. From his desire to help Kakashi, Obito awakened his Sharingan, allowing him to see through Taiseki's camouflage and kill him. Obito and Kakashi infiltrated the cave and released Rin from her restraints. Her captor, Kako, caused the cave to collapse around them. As the team ran for the exit, Kakashi was struck in his blind spot and fell. When Obito noticed that Kakashi was about to be hit by a falling boulder, Obito pushed him out of the way and became trapped in his place. With the right side of his body crushed and no way to free himself, Obito accepted his fate and made an offering to give Kakashi his left Sharingan as an apology for not getting him a present earlier. Rin performed the transplant, and once the procedure was finished, Kakashi used his new Sharingan to kill Kako. Iwa reinforcements quickly began to further compress the rubble, forcing Kakashi and Rin to leave Obito behind. As the rocks tightened around him, Obito reflected that he had finally started to get along with Kakashi, and that he couldn't confess to Rin that he loved her. Kakashi and Rin were rescued by Minato, and when they returned to Konoha, Obito's name was engraved in the village's memorial stone. Saved from death. In actuality, Obito was rescued by White Zetsu under orders from an elderly Madara. He brought Obito to Mountain's graveyard and tended to his injuries, removing those body parts too damaged to be healed and replacing them with limbs cultivated from the cells of Hashirama Senju. Despite his injuries, Obito's right Sharingan had survived intact. Although frightened by Madara, Obito felt indebted to him for saving his life and was willing to render any assistance he could, an offer Madara made clear he would collect upon. Obito began a long rehabilitation process, eager to recover enough for him to return to Konoha and help his friends and the village with the still ongoing war. With the help of White Zetsu and another spiral-faced Zetsu, he nicknamed Guru, Obito became accustomed to his replacement limbs and the abilities they granted him. All the while, Madara would tell Obito about the harsh realities of the world and his plan to save it, which the young Uchiha disregarded. During the end of his recuperation process, White Zetsu informed Obito that Kakashi and Rin were elsewhere, about to be killed by Kirigakure ninja. Obito was insistent on helping them, which Guru offered to help with by encasing Obito with its body. Before leaving, Obito thanked Madara for all his help, but said he wouldn't be returning. Madara made clear his conviction that Obito would return to him. Guru directed Obito to Rin and Kakashi's location, along the way informing him of Minato's absence. When they arrived, they found Rin and Kakashi surrounded by Kirinin, and Kakashi plunging his Chidori through Rin's heart. Rin's death caused each of their Sharingan to mature into Mangekyo Sharingan, a process that also caused Kakashi to pass out. Enraged by what had happened, Obito used a combination of his Mangekyo Sharingan's Kamui and the wood release of Guru's body to slaughter the Kirigakure ninja. When all of them were dead, Obito cradled Rin's lifeless body, ignoring the unconscious Kakashi. Obito returned to Mountain's graveyard, vowing to do anything for Madara if it could bring him together with Rin and Kakashi again. Madara explained his Eye of the Moon plan, which would replace the contemporary world of violence and death with one where nobody ever needs to die. Obito was intrigued, determined to create a reality where he, Rin, and Kakashi could exist alongside each other. Madara imparted all of his knowledge and plans to Obito, taught him about abilities he would need moving forward, entrusted him with his possessions, and manifested Black Zetsu to act as a guide. Having left almost all that he had to Obito, Madara disconnected himself from the demonic statue of the Outer Path that was keeping him alive, and told Obito that until his revival, he was to act as Madara Uchiha. Moving the plan forward. Using Madara's name and concealing his identity, Obito moved in the shadows of the ninja world to acquire the remaining pieces of the Eye of the Moon plan. Shortly after Madara's death, Obito and Zetsu went to Amagakure and approached the fledgling Akatsuki with an offer of support in creating the world of peace they envisioned. In truth, he only needed Nagato, in whom Madara had implanted his Rinnegan several years earlier, and who would be needed in the final stages of the Eye of the Moon plan. While Obito was almost able to sway Nagato, the Akatsuki leader, Yahiko, declined. Obito claims he eventually agreed without informing Akatsuki's other members. In the anime, Obito learned of a conspiracy between Hanzo and Danzo Shimura to eliminate Yahiko. He intercepted and killed the members of Akatsuki that tried to rescue Yahiko, and, once Yahiko was dead, encouraged Nagato in a new direction for the organization, one focusing on acquiring the tailed beasts. While Nagato became the Akatsuki leader and recruited powerful missing nin for their cause, Obito took an alias of Tobi and changed his personality around members to conceal his identity. In Kirigakure, Obito at some point took control of the fourth Mizukage, in effect making him the de facto Mizukage. After Kisame Hoshigaki became disillusioned by the lies of the world, Obito, as Madara, revealed himself to Kisame and promised to make a world of truth. Kisame became his loyal servant, one of the few Kirinin to knowingly work for him. During this time, Obito discovered the circumstances of Rin's death, that Kiri had sealed the Three Tails into her to make her a time bomb that would destroy Konoha. At Rin's insistence, Kakashi killed her to prevent this from happening. Obito's manipulation of the Mizukage was eventually discovered by Ao, and he was forced to abandon it. 12 years before the start of the series, Obito visited Rin's grave in Konoha. Kakashi was already there when he arrived, and Obito, watching secretly, heard him confide to Rin's grave that Minato's wife, Kushina Uzumaki, would soon be giving birth. Knowing that Kushina was the Nine Tails Jinchūriki, and that the seal keeping the Nine Tails contained within her would weaken during childbirth, Obito tracked her down on the night of October 10th. He killed her Anbu bodyguards and midwives, which included the third Hokage's wife, and took her newborn son, Naruto Uzumaki, hostage to prevent Minato from interfering. Minato was able to take Naruto from him, which distracted him long enough for Obito to escape with Kushina. He extracted the Nine Tails from her body, placed it under his control with his Sharingan, and ordered it to destroy the village. Minato soon afterwards arrived to help in the village defense. Before Minato could contribute much, or even tell anyone what had happened, Obito located him and tried to use Kamui to send him away and prevent further interference. Minato was able to escape with his Flying Thunder God technique, but Obito pursued him. Minato didn't recognize Obito as they fought, instead suspecting he was Madara Uchiha. He initially struggled to successfully strike Obito, but after several failed attacks, Minato finally hit him with a Rasengan and branded him with a Flying Thunder God seal, allowing him to teleport to Obito whenever he wanted. He then used the contract seal on Obito to release the Nine Tails from his control. Wounded and deprived from his best weapon, Obito fled. Minato gave his life to save the village by sealing the Nine Tails into his son, and thus never had the chance to inform anyone of Obito's involvement. Konoha's leadership nevertheless suspected an Uchiha involvement, and to that end placed all members of the clan under heavy scrutiny. Years later in the anime, Obito attacked the Fire Daimyo's convoy en route to Konoha, placing everyone in a genjutsu and killing Tenma Izumo, but swiftly retreats after sensing Kakashi approaching. Years later, the Uchiha, as a result of their mistreatment, began plotting a coup d'etat. Obito returned to the village with the intention of exacerbating the conflict, but was discovered by Itachi Uchiha. Believing Obito was Madara, Itachi asked for his help in wiping out their clansmen, offering revenge against them for their treatment of Madara decades earlier in exchange for Obito's agreement to spare the village. Obito accepted and offered Itachi a position in Akatsuki. In the anime, during the night of the massacre, he slaughtered the Konoha military police force and killed Izumi Uchiha. Afterwards, he collected several Uchiha corpses in order to extract their Sharingan for his own use. He also met with Danzo around this time. Following the attack, he cut his hair and brought Itachi into his organization. Kazekage Rescue Mission. As Tobi, he assisted Zetsu with locating Sasori's body. Once he found it and took Sasori's ring, he expressed his belief that he would now be able to join Akatsuki. They next tracked down Deidara's disembodied arm with its ring still attached. Tobi initially believed Deidara had also died, only for Deidara to appear before them shortly afterwards. Tobi was somewhat relieved to see him, but was concerned for both his well-being and capability with rather offensive jokes, provoking Deidara to strangle him with his legs. Three Tails appearance. Tobi was indeed accepted into Akatsuki as Sasori's replacement. Partnered with Deidara, he was assigned to capture the Three Tails. In the anime, Deidara treated Tobi to some dango before the mission, a ploy to get him to remove his mask. He turned away while he ate, preventing Deidara from seeing anything. They split up after eating, and Tobi eventually found Konoha Shinobi using the four-corner sealing barrier, which he deduced was meant to seal the Three Tails. He informed Deidara of his discovery, and they approached and killed the two Anbu put in charge of the sealing. When they located the Three Tails, Tobi tried to convince Deidara to fight it in his place. When the Three Tails chased Tobi, Deidara used his explosive clay on it while it's distracted. The rest of the battle went unseen. After they defeated the Three Tails, Tobi claimed responsibility for the beast's capture, saying his technique was flawless and that it made sense to assign him to the mission. Deidara retorted that it was actually his clay that defeated the Three Tails. Tobi, unconvinced, fell asleep during Deidara's argument. Deidara woke him up by detonating a clay bomb next to him. When they got the Three Tails to an Akatsuki base, the Akatsuki members convened and sealed it. Itachi Pursuit Mission. When Akatsuki assembled to extract the Four Tails, they were informed that their former member Orochimaru had been killed by Sasuke Uchiha. Deidara was angry that Sasuke killed Orochimaru before he had his own chance to, and so, after the Four Tails was sealed, resolved to kill Sasuke instead. Tobi accompanied him. When they located Sasuke, Tobi approached him first and was immediately attacked. He briefly pretended to be killed and then complimented Sasuke's speed. Having served the role of distraction well, Tobi sat back as Deidara attacked Sasuke, occasionally offering assistance by planting Deidara's explosives around the area. Deidara became increasingly desperate during their battle, forcing Tobi to retreat to a safe distance to escape the effects of his C4. Ultimately, Deidara resorted to using C0, killing himself and catching Tobi in the blast. Zetsu reported Tobi's and Deidara's deaths to Akatsuki. Shortly afterwards, Tobi met with Pain and Konan in Amagakure. He expressed his satisfaction with Sasuke's development, adding that, because Itachi's death was imminent, they would be able to approach him soon. He also remarked on Naruto Uzumaki and how impressed he was by his performance against Kakuzu. He instructed Pain to capture Naruto for the 9 tails sealed within him, but warned him not to underestimate Naruto. He departed, remarking that his, Madara Uchiha's plans would soon be complete. Tobi continued to keep tabs on Sasuke as he moved into confrontation with Itachi. Fated battle between brothers. When a group of Konoha ninja were about to interfere with Sasuke and Itachi's fight, Tobi intercepted them, keeping them busy until Zetsu reported Sasuke's victory. Because the Konoha ninja heard Zetsu's report, Tobi quickly teleported to Sasuke's location and escaped with his unconscious body. He treated Sasuke's injuries and waited for him to wake up. When he does, Tobi introduced himself as Madara Uchiha and exposed his right Sharingan to prove his identity. This triggered an Amaterasu in Sasuke's left eye against Tobi. Tobi retreated into the darkness while he put out the flames, returning with his mask back on to muse about how far Itachi would go to protect Sasuke. Sasuke was confused, so Tobi divulged the Uchiha history, though he denied his involvement in the 9-tailed Demon Fox's attack, and the truth surrounding Itachi's role in the Uchiha clan downfall. Sasuke was overwhelmed with grief for having killed Itachi and resolved to avenge him by destroying Konoha. Naruto Jinraiden, the day the wolf howled. In the novel, Tobi buries Itachi's body after taking his eyes. He speaks to Sasuke when he wakes up about the so-called justice of the ninja villages, which is built upon an endless cycle of deaths and loss. He contrasts this with hatred, which he claims to be both focused and finite. When Sasuke's eyes start to bother him, Tobi offers him Itachi's eye drops and the receipt for the prescription, which sends Sasuke to the Howling Wolf Village. Six Tails Unleashed. In the anime, Tobi and the other members of Akatsuki gather to seal the Six Tails. Pain's Assault. Because they had a shared interest in destroying Konoha, Tobi convinced Sasuke and his team Taka to start working with Akatsuki. Before Akatsuki could offer its assistance, Tobi assigned Taka the task of capturing the 8 Tails, one of the 2 remaining tailed beasts. After Taka left, Tobi met with Kisame, consoling him over Itachi's death and revealing his face, allowing Kisame to recognize him as the former Mizukage. Tobi also met with Zetsu, and they discussed how much easier their plans would be now that Itachi was dead. Zetsu questioned Akatsuki's recent actions, specifically the loss of 5 members, but Tobi insisted it had all been worth it to gain Sasuke's loyalty. Taka later delivered the 8 Tails Jinchūriki, Killer Bee, to Tobi. The remaining members of Akatsuki began the sealing process, but was quickly found that it was only one of the 8 Tails' tentacles disguised as Bee. Tobi was irritated that Sasuke failed in his mission, but still sealed the tentacle into the demonic statue of the Outer Path, so that it would at least have a fragment of the beast's chakra. 5 Kage Summit. Zetsu reports to Tobi the outcome of Pain's mission to capture Naruto. Although Konoha has been destroyed, Naruto was not captured. What's more, Pain, Nagato, gave his life to perform the Samsara of Heavenly Life technique and revive the villagers he killed. Upset by yet more setbacks, Tobi assigns Kisame to capture Bee and tracks down Sasuke and Taka on their way to attack Konoha. He informs them that they are too late since the village is already gone, and adds that they still owe Akatsuki for their failure to catch the 8 Tails. While they're speaking, Zetsu reports that Danzo is to be the next Hokage, and that he will be attending the Kage Summit in the Land of Iron. Tobi sees a compromise. Danzo was a conspirator in the Uchiha assassination, and if Sasuke were to kill him during the Kage Summit, that would serve Tobi's purposes. Sasuke agrees to the arrangement and is escorted to the Land of Iron by Zetsu. Once he and Taka get there, however, Tobi instructs Zetsu to reveal their presence to the assembled Kage. While Taka is placed against the Kage's combined might, Tobi meets with Naruto, who is also in the Land of Iron, in an effort to understand Nagato's change of heart. Kakashi and Yamato confront him, but Tobi doesn't want to fight, instead telling him about the Sage of the Six Paths, the truth of the Uchiha clan, and Sasuke's descent into darkness. They doubt the validity of what he tells them, but he's unconcerned and leaves shortly afterwards. As Sasuke is about to be killed by the Kage, Tobi rescues him. He sends Sasuke away, sending Karin with him so she can heal his injuries. Though disappointed that Sasuke was not more of a match for the Kage, Tobi is nevertheless happy by the development of Sasuke's Mangekyo Sharingan. Telling the Kage and those in attendance that he is Madara Uchiha, he explains the Eye of the Moon plan to them and concludes by asking for their support by giving him Killer Bee and Naruto. The Kage refuse, so Tobi declares war on them, all before disappearing. Tobi intercepts Danzo while he's fleeing the summit. He's attacked by Danzo's bodyguards, Fu Yamanaka and Torune Aburame, but other than the loss of an arm to Torune's Rinkaichu, Tobi easily disposes of both. With Danzo alone, Tobi teleports Sasuke and Karin to their location to fulfill his promise of letting Sasuke kill him. Tobi observes the battle and is glad when Sasuke is finally able to develop Susanoo. When Sasuke emerges victorious, Tobi approaches the dying Danzo to take Shisui's eye, which was implanted in Danzo's right eye socket. Danzo activates the reverse force symbol sealing in an attempt to take Tobi and Sasuke with him, but they're able to get out of range in time. Tobi collects Danzo's body and suggests that Sasuke take some time to rest. At his lab, Tobi discovers that Danzo destroyed Shisui's Sharingan before he died. Cursing him, Tobi gets a new arm and makes plans to retrieve Nagato's Rinnegan to prepare for war. Before he can leave, Zetsu informs him of Sasuke's fight with Naruto. Tobi interrupts them and advises Sasuke to save the fight for another time, in light of Sasuke's deteriorating vision. Once back at the mountain's graveyard, Tobi restores Sasuke's vision at his request by implanting him with Itachi's eyes, then leaves him to recuperate. Fourth Shinobi World War Countdown. As he's leaving the mountain's graveyard, Tobi is confronted by Kabuto Yakushi, who requests to ally with Tobi in the coming war. Tobi declines and attacks him, prompting Kabuto to use the summoning Impure World Reincarnation to revive 5 deceased members of Akatsuki: Sasori, Deidara, Itachi, Nagato, and Kakuzu. Kabuto offers them as pawns to be used on the battlefield, and all he asks in return is to be given Sasuke. Tobi contemplates refusal, to which Kabuto responds by reviving Madara Uchiha. Horrified that Kabuto knows that Madara is actually dead, Tobi is forced to accept an alliance, but sets the condition that Sasuke will not be turned over until after the war. Kabuto agrees and sends the summons away. Tobi escorts Kabuto into his hideout so he can assess his battle strength and reformulate his plans for war. Tobi later infiltrates Amagakure to acquire Nagato's corpse. He's immediately confronted by Konan. Tobi tries to buy back her cooperation by informing her of his involvement in Yahiko's creation of Akatsuki, but she doesn't believe him. Konan turns into paper and engulfs Tobi, hoping to use the exploding tags mingled with her paper in order to sacrifice herself and kill him. Tobi realizes what she's up to in time and warps the explosion away, saving both of their lives, but losing his right arm. Konan tries another attack, detonating a constant series of 600 billion paper explosives. The explosions go on for a period of 10 minutes, longer than Tobi can remain intangible for. He therefore uses his left Sharingan to perform Izanagi to survive the attack. Unaware of this and thinking he's dead, Konan lowers her guard, allowing Tobi to sneak up behind her and stab her. He asks what it is about Naruto that could have caused her and Nagato to betray him in the way that they have, to which she responds that Naruto is the light that will build a bridge to peace. Tobi avows himself as the darkness that crushes Naruto's light, and places her under a genjutsu to extract the location of Nagato's body before he kills her. When Tobi finds Nagato's body, he sees Nagato smiling at him, which he interprets as continued betrayal. He shuts Nagato's eyes before teleporting the body away. After replacing his left Sharingan with one of Nagato's Rinnegan, Tobi receives a report about the location of Naruto and Killer Bee. Kabuto offers to capture them for him as a sign of good faith. He ultimately fails, but does manage to bring back Yamato, who he can use to strengthen the White Zetsu army. Tobi finds this a fair alternative. Fourth Shinobi World War Confrontation. When preparations are complete, the thousands of Zetsu and many of Kabuto's reincarnated ninja mobilize, initiating the Fourth Shinobi World War. In the confusion, Kabuto also captures Anko Mitarashi outside of the mountain's graveyard. Tobi suspects that Kabuto led her to their hideout and believes Kabuto plans to have the Akatsuki and the allied shinobi forces destroy each other. Although confident that this won't happen, Tobi orders Kabuto to kill Anko. Kabuto refuses on the grounds that he can use Anko to make the Impure World Reincarnation stronger, something that's in Tobi's best interests. Tobi remains uneasy about Kabuto and has White Zetsu plant spores on him so that his actions can be monitored. He later learns that Naruto and B have left their confinement and joined the battle. With things moving towards their conclusion, Tobi goes to the location of the First Division, where he summons the demonic statue of the Outer Path. While the statue decimates the division, Tobi seeks out the Benihisago and the Kohaku no Johei, which contain the reincarnated Gold and Silver brothers. Darui and Shikamaru conclude that he plans to make use of the brothers' Nine Tails chakra as part of his plans and try to stop him. He compliments them on guessing his intentions and has the statue attack them while he escapes with the two items. As dawn breaks on the second day of the war, Tobi stands behind his own 6 paths of pain, comprised from the reincarnated Jinchūriki. Fourth Shinobi World War, Climax. Tobi leads the 6 paths towards Killer Bee and Naruto. Naruto headbutts Tobi as soon as they meet, to which Tobi only responds by pointing out that Naruto couldn't even scratch his mask. Naruto notices his new Rinnegan and remarks that it's the same as the other Madaras. Realizing that Kabuto has revealed his secret, Tobi quietly curses Kabuto before shedding his Madara identity, embracing the role of nobody. Tobi has his 6 paths engage Naruto and a transformed Killer Bee. Bee levels the area in an attempt to force Tobi away while he seals the 6 Jinchūriki, which Tobi counters by having the Jinchūriki enter version 2 forms. As the Jinchūriki overwhelm Naruto and Bee, Tobi takes advantage of Naruto's distraction and nearly captures him, only to be parried by Might Guy and Kakashi Hatake. In the confusion of their appearance, the Five Tails breaks free of Tobi's control, but he promptly subdues it. He then forces the Four Tails and Six Tails to fully transform in an attempt to stack the odds in his favor. The Four Tails is able to swallow Naruto, leading Tobi to believe that Naruto is out of commission. Instead, the Four Tails manages to communicate to Naruto how Tobi is controlling it. Naruto escapes from its mouth, locates the chakra receiver embedded in the Four Tails' flesh, and removes it. With the Four Tails free, Tobi quickly summons the demonic statue of the Outer Path to reseal the beast. He has the remaining Jinchūriki transform into the respective tailed beasts to try and finally bring the situation under control. Despite the overwhelming power of the five-tailed beasts, Naruto, working in full cooperation with the Nine Tails, is able to neutralize all of them and release them from Tobi's influence. Like the Four Tails, Tobi seals them back into the statue. Despite the setbacks, Tobi remains confident that he will emerge victorious. Sometime later, the revived bodies of the Jinchūriki, having been kept restrained by a transformed Killer Bee, are released from the effects of the impure world reincarnation, causing them to once again become lifeless corpses. As this could only mean that Kabuto has failed, Tobi realizes that time is running out. With no other options, he tosses the Benihisago and the Kohaku no Johei into the demonic statue's mouth, which, in addition to the 8 tails tentacles from the fake Killer Bee, completes the set of the 9-tailed beasts, initiating the 10 tails revival. While the demonic statue undergoes its regeneration into the 10 tails, Tobi protects it from Naruto, Bee, Guy, and Kakashi. Despite their combined efforts, they are unable to get past Tobi or damage him. Tobi is even able to turn some of their own attacks against them, such as a lightning-infused kunai that Kakashi is forced to send away with Kamui. After this latter exchange, however, Kakashi notices that Tobi's mask takes damage. Unable to attribute the damage to any of their attacks, Kakashi tests a theory. Naruto attacks Tobi with the Rasengan, and when it appears to pass through Tobi, Kakashi targets the Rasengan with Kamui. Tobi's arm is then damaged. Kakashi concludes that his Kamui and Tobi's ability share the same dimension, that attacks sent to the dimension at the same moment that Tobi has transported his body parts there for safety will do damage to Tobi. Now that they have a strategy to use against Tobi, Naruto, Bee, Guy, and Kakashi begin to coordinate their efforts. One of Naruto's shadow clones attacks Tobi, but the attack appears to fail and the clones disappear. The real Naruto attacks immediately afterwards with a tailed beast ball, which Tobi avoids by retreating to the other dimension. There, he finds Naruto's shadow clone waiting for him, having been sent there by Kakashi's Kamui. Before he has a chance to react, he is hit in the face with a Rasengan, shattering his mask. His face revealed, Kakashi and Guy recognize him as their former teammate Obito Uchiha. Kakashi is devastated to learn that Obito is not only alive, but is now one of the world's worst criminals. Before he can find out how Obito survived, the reincarnated Madara Uchiha arrives at Obito's side. Seeing the demonic statue, Madara chides Obito for reviving the Ten Tails prematurely and reviving him in the state he is in. Obito informs him of Nagato's betrayal before returning him his gunbai and directing him to Naruto and B. While Madara goes after them, Obito fights Kakashi. He ignores Kakashi's pleas for an explanation and nearly kills him, stopped only by Naruto. When Kakashi gets over his initial shock and starts to fight seriously, Obito sends him away with Kamui. This is part of Kakashi's plan, as through a combination of efforts, Naruto and Killer Bee nearly destroy the demonic statue, but the attack comes a moment too late, and from the smoke emerges the Ten Tails. Obito and Madara take position atop the Ten Tails' head and attach themselves to it so they can control its actions. Because they no longer need Naruto or Bee, they direct the Ten Tails to kill them. However, the combined allied shinobi forces arrive in time to stop the attack. The allies collaborate against the Ten Tails and succeed in restraining it, but the Ten Tails matures to its next form and releases itself. Though this was countered easily enough, they have the Ten Tails destroy the allied shinobi forces' headquarters to prevent future collaborations. Madara remarks that the battle is more difficult than it should be and blames Obito's deviations from the original plan, namely not bringing Madara back to life in the correct way. Obito replies that he never trusted Madara would keep his word and that he now follows his own version of the Eye of the Moon plan. Obito uses the beast as a medium to fire off several wooden projectiles into the assembled alliance. Many die, including Neji Hyuga, which Obito uses to try and encourage the alliance, and specifically Naruto of the futility of their resistance. Naruto and the allies refuse to be broken by their shared loss and instead unite for yet another attack, successfully separating the Ten Tails from Madara and Obito's control. Madara and Obito join forces against the shinobi army, but now have the unrestrained Ten Tails to contend with. The Ten Tails prepares to use Tenpenchi, which Kakashi attempts to stop with Kamui. Obito intercepts him and together they relocate to the other dimension. With nobody to interrupt them, Kakashi again tries to speak with him, and Obito finally starts to answer some of his questions, explicitly stating Kakashi should feel no guilt for killing Rin so many years ago. Kakashi tries to explain, but Obito saves him the trouble, saying he already knows the circumstances surrounding Rin's death and that it was Rin's idea to die, which is what led him to despair at the world that forced Rin to kill herself. Kakashi persists that what Obito is doing is wrong, but Obito continues to rebuff him. In an ensuing fight, he directs the outcome to have Kakashi stab him through the heart with a lightning-infused kunai in order to get rid of the forbidden individual curse tag Madara placed on him years ago. Obito gives Kakashi a non-fatal stab in return, which causes him to fall to the ground and allows Obito to return to the real world. Badly injured, Obito teleports to the top of the Ten Tails. Madara senses his return and his weakened state, and exerts his control over Obito to try and force him to perform the Samsara of Heavenly Life technique and bring him back to life. Before the technique can be completed, the allies try to eliminate Obito, including a reincarnated Minato, who is able to teleport to Obito's location using the same Flying Thunder God seal he branded Obito with years earlier. Minato and Obito only recognize each other after Obito has been cut down. Madara admits defeat, but not because Obito is dead. Obito, already beyond Madara's influence, was sealing the Ten Tails into his body, a process he completed in time. Now the Ten Tails Jinchūriki, Obito begins attacking the other reincarnated Hokage, using his new abilities to overpower them and all others with ease. Attacks don't affect him, and his truth-seeking balls overcome every defense that's placed against him. The allies' only advantage is Obito's lack of control. The Ten Tails' power physically distorts his body, and some inner struggle deprives of any discretion or precision in his actions. Deep within his mind, Obito fights to rein in the Ten Tails and keep it from tearing him apart. By focusing on a picture of his old team, he's able to subjugate the Ten Tails' power. Birth of the Ten Tails Jinchūriki. He hones the Ten Tails, composes himself, and begins a methodical attack against the allied shinobi, nullifying every jutsu they use against him. In a blind gamble, Gamakichi uses Starch Syrup Gun against Obito, which is the first attack to not be completely nullified. Naruto realizes that, despite all of Obito's new powers, he remains vulnerable to Senjutsu. With the moon nearing the optimal position to perform the infinite Tsukuyomi, Obito begins making final preparations. He traps the Alliance in a barrier and creates an enormous tree with 4 flowers, each flower charging a tailed beast ball. The balls are fired at the shinobi forces, but Naruto and Minato teleport everyone to safety. After repelling the two's senjutsu-fueled counterattack, Obito summons the tree form of the Ten Tails and has it absorb the chakra of nearby ninja, taking the chakra and killing many. Obito uses this rising death toll to shatter the determination of the Shinobi Alliance, offering them mercy if they stop fighting, and allow themselves to enter the infinite dream. Naruto is nearly shattered, but is galvanized by Sasuke's refusal to surrender, and he rallies the shinobi forces. Naruto and Sasuke join forces, combining their own senjutsu abilities against him to increasingly greater effect. Obito, who is fighting both the Shinobi Alliance by controlling the tree, and Naruto and Sasuke personally, becomes frustrated with their continued attacks and Naruto's denial of his way of thinking. Obito forms the Sword of Nunoboko, intending to use it to strike all of them down for good. Naruto and Sasuke realize they will only have a small window to defeat Obito, so they enlist the aid of their classmates from Konoha to help them with a combined attack against Obito. They successfully overwhelm Obito, and he begins to lose control of the Ten Tails chakra, giving the Alliance a chance to pull it from his body. During this time, Naruto enters Obito's consciousness through their linked chakras and begins to reason with him. Though he tries to resist the pull of both Naruto's words and the Shinobi Alliance's grip on his chakra, the chakra of the 9-tailed beasts is removed from him and he falls to the ground, his power and transformation gone, and his battle lost. As Obito lies helpless, Kakashi finally returns from Kamui's dimension with the resolve to kill him. Minato stops him and explains it's no longer necessary, as Obito's defeat by Naruto has finally shown him that he was wrong all this time, and that deep down, he was living a lie fighting for the infinite Tsukuyomi. As the Alliance begins shifting their attention to Madara, who's fighting elsewhere, Obito decides to use the Samsara of Heavenly Life technique to revive everyone he's killed as atonement for his sins. As he's performing the technique, Black Zetsu emerges from underground and forces him to change targets, reviving Madara instead. Black Zetsu tries to take the Rinnegan Obito is using also, but realizes it will not be able to get away from Kakashi and Minato. Obito explains to them what he has been forced to do and pleads with them to destroy his Rinnegan at any cost. While he struggles against Black Zetsu's control, the demonic statue is summoned from Obito's body, sapping what little energy he has left and enabling Black Zetsu to overpower him. Obito later manages to reassert control of his body just before Black Zetsu can transfer the Rinnegan and the Nine Tails Yin half, taken from Minato, to Madara, who has already regained the Rinnegan Obito hid away and become the Ten Tails Jinchūriki. Madara tries to convince Obito of the error he's making and lets his guard down while he gives Obito another chance. Obito opts instead to stab Madara, and in the process steals fragments of the One Tail and Eight Tails chakra, embracing his identity as Obito Uchiha for the first time in years. Because Obito has all of the pieces that Madara still needs for his plans, his escape becomes paramount. Kakashi uses Kamui on him while he also uses it on himself, allowing him to flee to the other dimension before Madara can stop him. In the other dimension, Obito finds Sakura and Naruto, the former performing emergency life support on the latter because of the removal of the Nine Tails Yang half from his body. Although she's skeptical of Obito, she allows him to seal the Nine Tails Yin half and the other tailed beast's chakra he has into Naruto since it's the only chance of saving him. When Naruto recovers, Obito sends him back to the real world to fight. He then asks Sakura to destroy his Rinnegan. Before she can go through with it, Madara arrives, having stolen Kakashi's Sharingan so that he could confront Obito. Obito teleports Sakura away so that Madara couldn't kill her. Because Obito is out of options, Madara gets one last thing off his chest. He orchestrated Rin's death all of those years ago in order to gain Obito's cooperation. With that said, Black Zetsu takes control of Obito's body. Kaguya Ōtsutsuki strikes. Obito awakens later to find circumstances greatly changed. The Rinnegan is gone, replaced by his original left eye. Black Zetsu is completely gone from his body. The infinite Tsukuyomi has been cast and the world trapped in a dream. Madara is gone, replaced by Kaguya Ōtsutsuki. Only Naruto and Sasuke, with help from Kakashi and Sakura, remain to resist Kaguya. They're now all stuck in a network of Kaguya's dimensions, lost within which somewhere is Sasuke. After taking all this in, Obito expresses his belief that he can use his 2 Mangekyo Sharingan to locate Sasuke. Naruto creates an opportunity for Obito and Sakura to infiltrate Kaguya's core dimension and then draws her away while they work. Through a process of trial and error, the stress this causes to his body being healed by Sakura, Obito searches through Kaguya's dimensions with Kamui and eventually finds Sasuke. Obito returns Sasuke and Sakura to the dimension where Naruto and Kakashi are. He watches as Naruto and Sasuke fight Kaguya. Their combined power is the only one capable of stopping her. Aware of this, Kaguya relocates them to a dimension with powerful gravity and pins Naruto and Sasuke down while she attacks with all-killing ash bones. Obito and Kakashi, empowered by a shared memory of their past friendship, place themselves in front of Naruto and Sasuke as shields. Because his odyssey began by saving Kakashi from death by a boulder, Obito decides he must now end things by saving Kakashi's life again. He uses his left eye to teleport the attack aimed at Kakashi away, allowing the attack directed at him to connect. Obito's body begins to crumble and there's nothing anyone can do to save him. He warns Kakashi that he will not be around to save him a third time and places his faith for a better world in Naruto before dying with a smile. Obito finds himself in the limbo between life and the afterlife. There, he sees Rin waiting for him. Obito apologizes for taking so long to join her, and also for many of the things he did while she waited for him. Rin assures him that it was okay, because he tried his very hardest and that she was always watching him. Though he's eager to start spending time with her, he's worried that Kakashi might do something stupid like die, and ruin things between them again. Therefore, he uses Kamui, and has his spirit return to the living plane, and inhabits Kakashi, imbuing him temporarily with the powers of his Mangekyo Sharingan. Kakashi uses them and the resulting Susanoo to provide backup for Naruto and Sasuke, giving them the opening they need to defeat Kaguya. With all scores settled, Obito apologizes to Kakashi one final time for everything, and the two part fully reconciled with Obito now free to join Rin in the afterlife. Legacy. Following Obito's apparent death, Kakashi was left greatly changed by the experience. The Sharingan that Obito gave to Kakashi helped him gain fame throughout the ninja world, and earned him the nickname of Copy Ninja Kakashi for over 1,000 jutsu he copied with the Sharingan. Obito's philosophy about the importance of teammates also guided Kakashi during all his future missions, and, once Kakashi was old enough to begin training his own students, became the single most important lesson he wanted them to learn and demonstrate. On a more personal level, Obito's death remained ever in his thoughts, and he would often spend his time visiting the memorial stone, where Obito's name is engraved to reflect on events. The nine-tailed demon fox's attack that Obito was responsible for would end up directing the course of Naruto and Sasuke's lives. Naruto's parents died that night, leaving him an orphan. Like Obito before him, Naruto came to dream of gaining Konoha's acknowledgement by becoming Hokage, and pursued that goal against all odds. The suspicion that an Uchiha was behind the attack would ultimately lead to the clan's downfall. Sasuke, the only Uchiha to be spared from death, dedicated his life to taking vengeance against those behind the death of his family at any cost. Despite the dark path he took in his life, Obito's actions eventually led the 5 great shinobi countries aligning with one another to form the allied shinobi forces, and later the Shinobi Union, ultimately fulfilling his promise of ending all wars and bringing peace to the world to Rin. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon to be notified about our latest videos. Thanks for watching.